Good morning, everyone. This is Spirit Journey. Today is Saturday morning at 6:12 a.m. It's going to be getting light soon. Yep. And today's date is September 12, 2020. I hope your September 11th was one of peace. I did do a video and I had problems with my computer and I couldn't upload it. I'll probably try again later. Well, what I want to talk about today, this morning, I was up now for maybe a couple of hours and I was reminiscing some of my early friends, so-called friends. I want to talk about racism and what racism does. And I think I want to talk about this because I want to talk about, so you have now on the internet, you have a slowly growing number of blacks who are doing well. They're polished. A couple of days ago I did a video and I talked about some of the new people that I found, black conservatives. And my mind is just thinking what seems to be common with them. Now, on the surface, I would say I have a lot of conservatism, I kind of pronounce it, in me. But I'm real. I'm born and raised here in America, from New York City. And I'm more of an observer of life. I'm very retrospective. And I feel things. I'm a feeling person, emotions. And maybe I let my emotions get the best of me many times. But racism. And when some of the people that I watched, wow, I can see the sky getting lighter and lighter real quick. It's really interesting. I find this part of the day the most interesting. Yeah, now it's 6:15 a.m. I'm finding it fascinating. But either way, I'm impressed with their abilities to move up the ladder. Some of them may have started out very modest, and they might become in a position of maybe being self-employed, or somehow they seem to be really turning into a bright, shiny star over social media, especially the females. You have now two females that I know of, and I've discussed them in the past, but one is real new. Just learned about her just a couple of weeks ago. Phenomenal black woman from the South, and she's running for office. And then you have another woman who came out before. Maybe I learned her maybe 2 years ago at the most. And I discovered she has a TV show. Well, I think an online TV show. And it's actually sponsored by an organization. Um, I feel like I'm being played. That's what's bothering me. And I want to be real. I want the American dream for all of us. I think people play games. What's going on behind the scenes? Um, I want to be real. I don't want to walk around in life and convince myself of a reality. We all have our different realities or perceptions of about life. And I feel I just want to be at least I want to be real. Where to begin? Well, what's not being said? Um, one of the women who's out there, who's now a new rave, and I was fascinated by them initially. Well poised, beautiful, highly intelligent, being interviewed by all different types of people, or I should say white people. But it's interesting the play with these black conservatives. Why aren't they being embraced by other black conservatives? I mean, now I did see one interview yesterday or the day before. I didn't even know that they knew of each other. But yeah, these two people were they were interviewing each other. Well, it was on the ladies' show, and the guy was the guest. Two conservatives. It was very cute. It was really nice. But outside of that, you don't really see these new up and coming black conservatives a part of mainstream black communities. It's like, where are they? Is it that when you become conservative, and historically we've always been conservative black people, so I don't know what the newness is. Black people in America are in general conservative. In general, historically, we're churchgoers, you follow the rules, all that. Even though my family was not religious, they did, they didn't go to church, but they had their communions, all that, but they weren't churchgoers, but they were conservative people. So that's the first thing. And what is making like what makes us stop being connected to the black community when we promote conservatism? Why is it at this point why it's like we've become a novelty, and all of a sudden these white people want to interview people like them? I don't seem to understand. Well, one of these new black conservative women, I remember some time ago when I first was introduced to her over the social media. She told the story about what happened to her, but um, she's not really specific in certain details, and I think this obscuring of this fact really coloring the whole story and what racism is. Now she had dated this guy, but she doesn't say that he is a white guy. But that's what he was. And again, nothing wrong with that. It was the story was told very awkwardly at times. But basically, what happened? She was in her dorm or something. She gets a call on her phone. Someone left messages on her answer machine. I think it was her answer machine rather than a cell phone. And they were horrible. It was about, I think, four messages or something. In short, they were pejorative calls about her race. Really, really uncalled for. Really, I think threats of killing and things. And she recognized one of the voices. It was her former boyfriend. Got his buddies. They were in a car. They were all drunk to harass her. And she forwarded the tape or whatever the device it was to the authorities of the school and I think other places, and they did track them down. Who called, because you could track calls and things like that. And the authorities in the school, they said all the right things, to support her emotionally. How awful it was, and um, victimizing her. And it was the word victim that caused her problem. Not so much that this dude, this white man, young white guy, uh, boyfriend, or now former boyfriend, did this to her. What was she? What I would wonder myself. What did he really think of me all along? For him to say this and have his buddies join in, but she was mostly focused on that she was the vulnerable because the authorities said that she was a victim of this hate crime, and she didn't want to see herself as a victim, and made that victimize her the most. And so she becomes an anorexic for 4 years because of that event, to try to self-empower herself, and that was the stress, and that's how she dealt with it. Unfortunate. But I said to myself, wow. But in essence, what she encountered was racism, and that racism manifested in her life. And how she responded was through becoming bulimic. I said anorexia, but I meant to say bulimic. She became bulimic for 4 years. And that condition can actually kill you. It's a very unhealthy practice. That's when you make yourself throw up. You're torturing yourself. So she tortured herself because her boyfriend, or not ex-boyfriend, and his buddies said horrible slurs about her and left a message on her answer machine or voicemail. See, that was racism she encountered. Bigotry, hatred, firsthand. And she responded the way she did. Now, racism could happen in other ways. And it's what it does. See, racism could have been an obvious event that only happens to you once. And it could forever cripple you. And that was just once. But now this person is what they call a black conservative. And it's like certain people can't do any wrong, and it's really all in your head, and all this idealism. And I commend them that they really, that it's like, wow, um, how did she get to that point? But I think about my life and how does it affect you? And again, how you have other black conservatives out there, and it's like, what do they all seem to have in common? It's like they say something, also the blatantly say there's no such thing as racism in America, and that they've never encountered it. And I'm wondering, I'm just like confused. I start to think, is this my imagination? Am I just being overly sensitive? The pattern that I see with the new black conservative is that if you promote that racism is just your imagination if you're a black person, uh, the American dream and idealism, you seem to be loved and embraced by prominent white people or have that veneer of being prominent, wealthy, have connections, and they may start to invite you on television shows, social media shows, and if you keep that narrative, you become their hero. But somehow in all this, how come you don't see any black people um, toting them also? Isn't it about black excellence? See, if it's all about black excellence and blacks being showcased who show excellence, I would still see that other black people would be interested, and hey, let's get them on our show and and they show us and lead us the way to the American dream, to happiness and wealth and all that. But why don't I see that happening? I don't see that. Why? I think what's happening is that, see, you have the far right, you have people with their own motives, and that they'll award you, or I say reward you, with certain brownie points of acceptance. That you continue the narrative that there's no racism, that everything is good, and anything that you encounter in life is all your imagination and it's not real. And they're promoting cognitive dissonance. Cognitive dissonance.